Hi, welcome back. We're now at step 2 in unpacking this technique. So yesterday we looked at the combined effect of curiosity, collaboration. We looked at the difference between instructions and suggestions, and we got to that point where the participant had an experience that subjectively could be defined as happening. By that I mean their fingers move together automatically, involuntarily, non-volitionally, because it's happening rather than something they're doing. Now, as many of you may know, there is something of a built-in cheat here, known as body mechanics. If you put your fingers up like this and there's some kind of tension in your hands, it's likely over a period of time that your fingers will kind of begin to move together anyway. In some cases, that will happen in a second or two. It's almost up to you to keep them apart until you want that to happen. So does that make this just a trick? Well, I guess you could present it that way, and that is why some people don't use it. They see it as a playground trick that's not really giving them any real feedback about the skill level of the participant. By skill level, I mean their innate ability to respond to suggestion. And often we're using these kind of things to try and find, how good, willing and able somebody is in their ability to respond to us. But I don't see this as a trick. I see this as, first of all, an opportunity to see if the person is on board. And because I can do this with, as many people as can hear me, I'll often do this with an entire audience of hundreds, it's a wonderful group effect. And I can already begin to kind of discern who is on board with this, who wishes to play my games and collaborate, and who doesn't, who's just kind of missed that point. So first of all, it tells me if you're on board. Secondly, it tells me, if you can follow my instructions, if I'm being understood, if I'm making myself clear, that kind of thing, how keen you are. But secondly, and perhaps more importantly, if I observe, if I look at you as this happens, it's going to indicate to me whether you are experiencing that happening and whether you become kind of emotionally aroused in some way by this occurring. I'm going to see that because your eyes may widen, you may make some exclamation like, oh my gosh, you may freak out, you may want to pull your hands apart, you may kind of get the shakes, that kind of thing. But I'm really looking for something that tells me, whoa, for that few seconds, you had a moment of almost childlike wonder as something happened that you didn't quite expect. Again, this is a popular enough thing in some places, some countries even. Kids do it in the playground and whatever. But to me, that's not a reason not to use it. It's actually very rare that I have a comment from an adult of, oh, yeah, I remember that. We used to do that in the playground. Occasionally it happens. And if someone says, oh, it's just your fingers, it's just like body mechanics, it's just what happens, it's a trick, then that's cool too. I can just say that's right. There's actually a reason why your fingers would come together. And I'll then just move on and do something else, like magnetic hands or light heavy arms. However, put all of that aside because we're going to take this a little further, aren't we? Instead of their fingers just touching, they're going to lock and stick together. We're going to challenge our participant to try and pull them apart. And that is a fundamentally different experience. There's no real trick to that, right? Before we get to that challenge, we have the next big piece, which is an injection of emotion. Or should I say, we elicit an emotional response in our participant. Now, again, for those of you that have studied my father Freddie Jacquin's work or have trained with us, you'll know that this really is one thing that he emphasizes a lot. And that is that whenever we create or elicit or just quite, spontaneously, our participant experiences a spike in emotion, a rise in the level of emotion that they are experiencing, then that's a great opportunity to just get more direct, to give a direct suggestion. Therapeutically, my dad and I will often find ourselves making single sentence utterances which, if they really landed, would do the work, So if someone is asked, how can I help you? And they immediately burst into tears. They're so pent up with anxiety and frustration, they immediately feel the relief even that's coming from that question or that offer of assistance and help. Rather than immediately handing them a box of tissues, we typically give them a direct suggestion. You're going to be free of that problem today. It's going to be easy and painless. You will leave here as a non-smoker. You're going to walk away from this today. This will never bother you again. From today it will be easy. We're going to give a direct suggestion. But let's come back to the technique in hand. This emotion piece is the bridge from a physical effect into a much stronger hypnotic phenomenon. So let me briefly talk about hypnotic phenomena, although we're going to get more deeply into that in step 3. I tend to categorize the variety of hypnotic phenomena into 4 categories. The first category, the one that most people can achieve without any extra training, is physical phenomena. Okay, fingers moving, hands moving, body swaying, eyes feeling heavy. The second category is emotional phenomena, experiencing emotional responses to suggestion, laughing, feeling good, feeling ecstatic, feeling confused, feeling angry, if you want to, perform in a kind of controlled manner with those emotions. The third category is what I call a challenge suggestion, where I'm actually going to ask my participant to fight against the suggestions they've been given. And then finally, more cognitive phenomena, changing the way they think, not just feel. Things like amnesia, post-hypnotic suggestions, hallucinations are going to fall into that category. And we'll get into that stuff deeper into this bit of training. For now, let's just talk about emotion. We've already given our participant the experience of physical phenomena. Their fingers have moved, their eyes have widened, they've now closed their eyes. Remember that, those fingers will touch, and when they touch, close your eyes. You can allow your eyes to close. I then give one more instruction, squeeze tight. It's not essential, but what I find is some people, when they touch, they relax. Okay, so I just want to keep them there. So I'll just say, that's right, eyes closed, close your eyes, squeeze tight. Now comes the emotion piece. I'd like you to go out into a fantasy. Think of the person who is dearest to you. If there's more than one, see more than one. See their eyes, see them smiling, hear their voice, hear them laughing. Feel what you feel for them. Notice where those feelings are. And as you feel that, and as you listen to the sound of my voice, your fingers are becoming stuck together, locked together, they're superglued, they're stuck. Okay? So this piece, essentially, invoking the memory or the thought of a loved one, is something that my father and I use in many different places in our therapeutic system. It's like an easy win most of the time. It's an easy way of provoking an emotional response. Now, why would you want to provoke an emotional response? Well, everyone has their theories, and there are different theories about the effect of emotion on our behaviour, the effect of emotion on our ability to think, to remember, to recall stuff, on our performance. Some of the effects in certain situations are, of course, negative. If you're overwhelmed with emotion, you may not be able to perform. In other cases, emotion can propel us to new heights, right? So it's not a strictly positive or negative thing. But there is something we can learn from one theory of emotion as it relates to fear. What we know is that when people are experiencing a high level of, let's say, fear, right, anxiety about something, then it's almost like their ability to use their frontal lobes to think, to be logical, to be rational, tends to crash. Doesn't disappear completely, right? But as they experience this surge of emotion, the activity here tends to decrease. You might imagine there would be a good evolutionary reason for that, right? If your life was actually under threat, that lion is running towards you, you don't really want to be rationalizing, thinking, is he going to eat me? Is he going to eat my friend? I wonder if he's where he's going. Instead, you're going to go into freeze, fight, flight. Essentially, you're going to get out of there, right? So, imagine this is also a spectrum, and that if we can increase emotion, and again, perhaps we could decrease, just for a time, your capacity to interject logically and rationally. Okay, maybe that would have a use if I want to give you a direct suggestion. That's really our motive. There are many definitions of hypnosis. My dad and I, are happy to, move from one to another depending on what we're talking about. But sometimes when my dad, Freddie Jacquin, is asked, what's kind of the essence of hypnosis, he will say, elicit an emotion and give a direct suggestion. Again, if you've seen him at work, you'll know he's an expert at doing this in his questions, his discussion, as well as, when he has a client responding to hypnosis, to his suggestions. So in this case, we typically use a loved one. Now listen to what's said again. Squeeze tight. Go out into a fantasy. Think about the person who is dearest to you on the planet. We normally say that because it's generally someone who's alive that we're invoking. I always find myself saying, if there's more than one, see more than one. For the simple reason that I've had people sort of poleaxed at that point because they've got 2 kids, 2 parents, 2 brothers, whatever. They can't choose. They get confused. They feel bad. They think of a favourite, right? So if there's more than one, see more than one. See their eyes. See them smiling. Hear their voice. Hear them laughing. Feel what you feel for them. Okay, so typically I'm going to go see, hear, feel. If I know who they're thinking about, let's say I happen to know they're thinking about their kid, I may go further. Remember the first time you looked into that child's eyes? They were small enough for you to hold in one hand. I'm trying to spike the emotion, but I don't need to know who they're thinking of. This is why I can work with a group. Everyone's thinking of someone different, some people one person, some people a whole family. See their eyes, see them smiling. When I say that, I'm looking to see, does my participant respond? And often they will. They'll yield, their tension will release, they'll smile, they may tip their head back. Hear their voice, hear them laughing. Or sometimes I'll say, hear them supporting you. Feel what you feel for them. Okay, so I want to end on feelings. And the reason I want to end on feelings is going to link the recognition of the experience of feeling with the next part of this effect. So see their eyes, see them smiling, hear their voice, hear them laughing, feel what you feel for them. Notice where those feelings are. Right? This line turns their attention inward even further, like, I feel it in my chest, I feel it in my heart. I'm embodying it in some way. Yeah, I feel that. Notice where those feelings are. And as you feel that, and as you listen to my voice, Those fingers are becoming stuck together, locked together, they're super glued, they're stuck. Okay, and at that point we'd start to get into testing that and challenging that. So again, that final piece, notice where those feelings are. Now think about it, the participant has completely forgotten that their hands are still in this position. And actually, not just in this position, but they were given an instruction to squeeze tight 30 seconds ago. They've forgotten that. There is lactic acid, there are helpful physical things going along in the hands because of that tension. But really they've forgotten about it, they're off out into this little fantasy, they're experiencing a rise of positive emotion. Remember, the dearest person to them, positive emotion. Even if it's moving them to tears, they're experiencing a rise of emotion. See, hear, feel. And then we have this statement. And as you feel that, and as you listen to the sound of my voice, your fingers are sticking together, locking together. So this final piece is an example of what's called pacing and leading. I have an extended video freely available on YouTube. If you search for Anthony Jacquin, pacing and leading, you'll find it, where I get deep into just this one single language pattern. I often describe it as the one and only language pattern you'll need to do this work. But essentially, I'm going to make statements that I know you will verify as true. You're sitting in a chair, you're watching this video, you can hear the sound of my voice. Right? And then I'm going to make statements about things that will move your attention. You can become aware of the feeling in the soles of your feet, the temperature in the room, other sounds, things that move your attention around, but will also be verified as true in your experience. And then finally, I'm going to make statements about your inner experience. I'm going to suggest something to you. So in this case, very briefly, as you feel that, I've pointed your attention at a kinesthetic experience. You're feeling that. Notice where those feelings are. As you feel that, and as you listen to the sound of my voice, so I'm pacing two things that are ongoing in your experience. And then I give a direct suggestion again. Your fingers are sticking together, locking together. They are super glued. They're stuck. I'm not saying lock them together. I'm not saying imagine they're stuck together. I'm saying they are that way. Okay, so that's a little piece about the role of emotion in this technique. Emotion is something that you should welcome in your practice. It's something that you should elicit from your clients. You shouldn't be scared of it. Again, positive emotions, negative emotions are all a vehicle for you to get more direct with your suggestions. They are essentially a springboard that you can use to deepen the experience and the effect of your words. So again, that's step 2, right? We've looked at instructions and suggestions. We've looked at the role of emotion. And tomorrow we're going to get into testing your work, what I call the challenge phenomenon. Thank you.